I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of going to bed thinking about I wanted the love of my mom. I wanted this to be over with. Getting up in the morning, going to work, I was tired of facing the same story over and over again. I would be at work, a workaholic. I would go in at 5 a.m. and I would leave work at maybe 10:30 or 11 o'clock. That was my comfort, the people at work. And then I would have to get back up at 3:45 to be at work at 5 o'clock so that I wouldn't think.
Mid-South Viewpoint, a Christian news and information feature of Bott Radio Network 640 AM, discussing the news, views, issues, and concerns that affect our community. Join us now for today's edition of Mid-South Viewpoint.
How do you deal with the shame, hurt, and embarrassment of something that you had no control over, but someone caused great pain in your life? Hi, and welcome to Mid-South Viewpoint. I'm Byron Tyler. Today we're going to talk about a very sensitive subject, but one I think we must address. I might advise you, if you have small children, you might want to move them and get them occupied in another part of the house to listen to our program today. We will be very discreet in our conversation, but I think we need to talk about this. Today we welcome Tammie Walker-Smith. She's written a book called Pray, P-R-E-Y, for the Predator in the Pulpit. Tammie, it's great to have you, and also Pastor Andrews Smith, your husband, both together here today.
Yes.
Bless you.
We're new friends. We just met
we are.
Hallelujah.
at Mount Vernon Baptist Church last Friday evening at a special revival meeting. We were there with Dr. David Evans to share about the Grace Card movie.
Wonderful movie.
And just met you, and just our spirits bonded, and we said, hey, let's get together.
Yes.
Right.
And you were there sharing about your ministry.
Yes.
First of all, tell me how you two met.
Well, I'll let my husband start. How about that?
Okay, this for me. Tim and I met in 2006. We met through a mutual friend. I've written the book several years ago. I never really done anything with it. I self-published it. And when I met Tammie, we were just kind of talking. We were both, at the time she was writing her book, she said she had a writer's block. So I told her, well, I could help her. I think it was kind of hard for her because her dealing with all this pain and trying to write it down too was kind of hard. And so I think what I allowed her to do was to be able to just, lie back on the couch, and I just typed everything out for her as she just closed her eyes and just was open about what happened. And it was extremely hard for me, but I think God allowed me to be in her life at that moment so that she can birth out this book. Was absolutely powerful, and it just blew my mind, and I was like, oh my God, I really couldn't do it. And we later got closer and closer, which later led to us being together and being married.
Now, Andrews, as a minister of the gospel, I'm sure that there's times often that you encounter people with great burden and conflict and pain in their life that you have to deal with sometimes.
Yes, it's very painful, and especially when you have to pour yourself into people's lives like that, or allow them to pour their lives into you. And what happens, you become a part of their lives. And for something that Tammie went through, I found myself being deeply affected by it. And by being a pastor, of course, what she would share later, what happened to her, I had a strong burden for it. And it just really, nightmares and things like that. It was painful, but she is a very powerful and bold woman of God.
Tammie, something about radio I do not like is that it doesn't show you the face of the guest we're talking to, because we're on the radio.
Yes.
Your face lights up with the love of Jesus.
I love him. I love him so much.
I mean, it's like there's a smile engraved on your face, and I wish folks could see that. But first of all, did you grow up here in Memphis?
Yes, I did. All my life I've been here. I graduated from White Station High in 81. I've been here all my little life.
What was life growing up for you like? What type of family did you have?
I had a wonderful family. I had a sweet mother, and my father, he was an in and out guy. He wasn't always in the home. He was always out gambling, spending his money, doing other things like that. So I had a father in the home, but he wasn't in the home, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Yes. And as far as our Christian life, my mother, she made sure that we attended church. My dad, he was a Christian, but he very rarely went to church. But he did believe in Jesus Christ. But we stayed in a really wonderful neighborhood, French Fort in Memphis, close by downtown. Back in the 60s, it was a really great neighborhood. I had a pretty great childhood until my situation that I had experienced.
What goals and dreams did you have after graduating from high school? What did you want to do?
Actually, I wanted to be a modern dancer.
Did you?
Yeah, I really did. And I really wanted to dance. And I wanted to travel the world, and I never had a chance to really experience that because of my past, the things that happened to me. I never had a chance to explore any of that because, well, I can go into all of that later, but I didn't have the energy to want to dance anymore. I didn't want to do a lot of things because my mind changed, my body changed, a lot of things changed. Once we get into the story, you can understand, what I'm saying, but I didn't have the desire anymore.
You were sexually abused.
I was.
And
yes.
That's really what we want to talk about today.
Exactly.
And how God carried you as a child through being sexually abused into where you are today. A woman who stands delivered,
praise
restored,
God. Yes.
And has found forgiveness in her own life and even able to offer that forgiveness to the one who perpetrated such evil act against you.
Exactly.
When did the abuse first begin?
Well, I would take it all the way back when I was a little girl. I would say around 9 years old, maybe 8 or 9 years old. Mentally, I believe that I was prey for the predator before I was actually molested. I was around the minister. My family was around the minister. He would see me on Sunday. He would come to the house all the time. He would actually befriend me. I would ride on his back, and play, and we would play games, run, and just a wonderful time.
Just a childlike, innocent activity. Andrews, this is something that you would want to see happen with adults and children. Very positive role model, encouraging, fun relationship.
Exactly. And I got molested at age 14. My pastor baptized me. I trusted him. I believed in the things that he said. Actually, he took a part in our family like a father. My father really wasn't there. And my father allowed him to come into our home all the time. Yes. My father would leave and go and gamble, go to the dog track over in Arkansas. He would say goodbye, okay, Reb, I'll see you later, goodbye. So he trusted him to stay in our home. When I got molested, it was on a Sunday, Easter Sunday, the Resurrection Sunday. I had no idea it was a name for that.
Easter, of course, we know the celebration is the resurrection of Christ, but even for children, Easter, Pastor, is a time for excitement when you think about even enjoying unwrapping candy and having Easter egg hunts and just the fun of the season.
Yes. But not only that, as a girl that was 14 years old, my Easter egg hunts was over.
Sure.
But my new dress that my mom got me and my new sandals and the accessories that I had, she would still buy those things for Easter.
Yeah, that's still, even for a teenager. I remember Mom saying it's time to go get a new tie or a new shirt and we're going to have Easter Sunday. So it was a big occasion for families.
And I felt like a pretty girl. I was happy, and my sister and my brother, we were all dressed and ready to go. And my mother called him and said that she wanted us to attend Sunday school. And actually, that was our first time attending Sunday school, but we were always in the church. But we'd never been to Sunday school. When we attend Sunday school that day, he asked my sister and my brother to go ahead and go into their classes. And he asked me if I would meet him in his office. And I said, sure. And so when he came in to the office, he said, close the door, Tammy. I want to talk with you. And I said, okay. And I closed the door. And I said, oh, my goodness, did I do something wrong? Because I was in a situation that I'd never been in before, in the office with the door closed and without my sister or my brother or anybody. It was just he and I alone for the very first time. So he said, Tammy, you're such a beautiful little girl. You've grown to be a beautiful little girl. And I was happy. And I told him, thank you. And he said that, do young boys say anything to you? Are they trying to approach you, talk with you? And I told him, no. He said, well, are you interested in boys? I said, no. He said, well, do you like boys? I said, yeah. And he said, well, that's where I come in. It's time for me to teach you about young boys. It's time for me to teach you the different things about what they like and what you're not to do. And he said, do you trust me? And I said, yes, because I did. And he said, okay, this is what I'm telling individuals today. When you hear someone say, don't tell your mother, that's a light bulb that should go into any child's head, which it did go in my head, but it was something still there of the trust of the pastor.
Well, there was something a little different in this situation because this pastor was trusted in your home by your father.
Yes.
Yes.
So he was, like you said, almost part of the family.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
Let me ask you, Pastor Andrews, what is wrong with this picture here?
First of all, just like what you said, there's nothing wrong with trusting pastors, in which Tammie knows that. Her father really gave her the approval to trust him by leaving him there and letting her know that it's okay. Dad is away, pastor's at home, and it's all right. But I don't think a pastor should ever have that one-on-one like that with a child with the door closed.
Yeah.
I don't really think that. And Tammie has this gift, and I don't want to just go before her, but I think we all should have. She has this gift of forgiveness, and you could do something to her, and immediately she can come back and forgive you for it. The reason why I was just saying that is because basically she knew that something was wrong when the door was closed, and she was in there with him by herself. And something in her told her that it was okay, when it wasn't okay. But the way that she is like, okay, something's got to be right about this because it's the pastor. Right. And we have so much faith in the pastors, and we should. But there are some, I hate that, the men of God or women of God that may not be exactly what God portrays us to be.
Somebody who stepped out of bounds. I mean,
yes.
That was not their place, obviously, yes. to do that.
Yes.
But Tammie, you mentioned about this light bulb that went inside, so you knew that something wasn't right.
Something wasn't right. And I think a lot of times when we are in trouble, you do get a sign, you get something, I feel, like that light bulb that went in my head. But the misguided trust led me into this situation, I would say.
So it started at 14 years old. And
yes.
How long did this encounter continue?
Well, it went on until I was 16. I had my friend at school to tell my mother exactly what happened. I was afraid to tell my mother because I thought I was going to get in trouble, and I thought that I had did something wrong because I had never said anything. I had kept it. So I was embarrassed
but
about
at the same
that
time,
secret.
So you had the embarrassment, and I guess you felt guilty.
I did, yes.
Did you feel in any way that it was your fault that this was happening?
Not only did I feel that it was my fault, I also felt that I was protecting him because he was the minister and he did something that was wrong. So I was protecting his wrong. And I knew that it was wrong. And I knew that I was being treated wrong, but I was taking all of it because I didn't want the people in the church to think bad of me. And I didn't want my mother and my grandmother to think bad of me by allowing this individual to do these things to me that they loved. They loved him. And I thought that they may not love me anymore because everybody loved him so much, at the church. So when I told my friend about it, my friend said, "No, this is wrong. Do you know this is wrong?" And I said, "But I can't say anything. Will you please go and tell her for me?" He went inside and he told my mom. We were at school in the cafeteria. I never forget it. And he went and he told her, and she worked at the cafeteria at the school. And she came out and she asked me, was it true? And I told her, I said, it was true. And she was furious. She was so angry. She was so mad. And that was the longest ride home with all the questions that she wanted to ask me. I just told her everything. And I was told later that she was so angry with him that she had a gun and she threatened him with the gun. And he apologized, and he said that he was sorry that he did do that it would never happen again.
So he did not deny that at all?
He never denied that.
Which oftentimes those who do perpetrate such things do deny,
Yes. So, and during that time, we weren't going to church for a while. Then we separated from my father, and we moved away. And I was in my room one day, and I heard laughing downstairs, and I decided to go downstairs. I said, I know I don't hear what I hear. And when I walked down the steps, it was him in the home again, and my mother sitting there laughing and talking. And I went to the kitchen as though, like I was pretending that I was going to get something. But I really wanted to see, is he back in our home? And he was. And she acted as though nothing was going on and nothing had happened to me ever. So I just went back up the steps, and I became an actress that day because when I saw her laughing and he laughing and nothing happened, it was like nothing never happened. So we began to go back to church.
So even though, Tammie, there was that time when he was confronted with this wrongdoing against you, he didn't deny it, and he said he was sorry and it would never happen again. Mm-hmm. but need to be something more for you because, I mean, you had gone over 2 years
Exactly.
of being abused.
Exactly.
And no one had reached out to you at this point.
I had no counseling. I had nothing, but do not say a word to anyone about what has happened to you.
So you became
Tammy.
this actress.
Yes, I could have gotten an award, to be honest with you, because when I was told not to tell, I did not. And I began to go back to church and to do the same thing. I was working in the church, doing the same thing around him, like, hey, how are you? You know, like nothing ever happened. But it started all back over again.
The abuse started again.
It started all back over again. What happened, he came to our home and I felt so bad. Like I did something so wrong because I should have never told. And I told him, I said, I'm so sorry for telling and messing up everybody, lives with what I said, that I shouldn't have said anything. In my mind, I was thinking it was all my fault. So he said, Tammy, don't worry about it. Meet me down the street and I'm going to pick you up and we're going to talk about it. And I said, okay, yes, sir. And it started in the car all over again.
So he really used that against you.
Yes.
So that you would sympathize for him. Is this a common, Pastor, when you see abuse like that?
Yes, because we don't want to be the one who, if something happens to this particular pastor, he knew, just like Tammie said, he knew in the beginning what type of person she was. If it probably would have been another child that was screaming and kicking and hollering the whole 9 yards, he probably would have left her alone because she makes too much noise. She's going to cause a problem. But he knew that Tammie was forgiving and receiving.
Very compliant.
Exactly. And especially when she came back to apologize, he jumped on that like a tiger would a deer or whatever the case may be. He looked at that and said, okay, now if she's so sympathetic towards me, she's going to give me herself because she's already done it by coming to me telling me that she's sorry. And really, me being the pastor, know that I'm the one that should be sorry. So by her coming to me, he capitalized on that. And, and it's terrible.
Tammie, I can't imagine. How old were you at this time?
I would say 17. I was 17. And when it started all back over again, I never said a word to anyone. Ever. Never. It started at 14, 15, 16. It stopped for a while because my mother had us out of the church. And then it started back again at 17 and 18 and 19. When I went off to college, it was over. No more.
When was the turning place? Where did the healing begin for you? What was the thing that changed that helped you to be able to deal with this pain and to find cleansing for yourself? Not that you had done something wrong, but just to be able to get rid of that guilt and shame that you didn't deserve in the first place.
I got healing at the age of 40. And I kept
all those years went by.
All those years went by because I was an actress, because my mother, she married him later.
Your mother married this man.
She married him, and so she asked me, Tammie, how do you feel about me marrying Reverend? So me being an actress, I think it's great. I think it's fine. Well, in my mind, I was like, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you do this to me when you knew from the beginning? But I was told later by her, she said, Tammie, I had no idea that you felt this way. If I'd known that you felt this way, I would have never married him. So I'm like, where do I really come in at? So I never could understand.
Did you feel totally forsaken? Because you didn't seem like you had a support base here. I mean, because you've got to feel like you've got somebody that's on your side.
I had no one but God and my sister. That's all I had.
And how did that relationship with your sister, how did that help you?
Well, the story goes deeper than that just as well. He was molesting her also. When I came out to share what was going on, she came out later and told what was happening with her also. So we had this little thing that was in common that we could share, and we helped one another here and try to get ourselves together, because we had a mother that I would say was in denial, or I think that some of it also went back from a spousal abuse from my father. Maybe I really don't know where her mind was and why she made those decisions. I don't know if she wanted to be secure with a man of the cloth, or I can't tell you why she chose the man over her children. I just can't. But I know that my sister was so supportive, and she encouraged me to move forward in my life. And she's a registered nurse at Methodist. And I was sick all the time, and I would contemplate suicide. And I would try to commit suicide because I wanted out. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of going to bed thinking about I wanted the love of my mom. I wanted this to be over with. Getting up in the morning, going to work, I was tired of facing the same story over and over again. I would be at work, a workaholic. I would go in at 5 a.m. and I would leave work at maybe 10:30 or 11 o'clock. That was my comfort, the people at work. And then I would have to get back up at 3:45 to be at work at 5 o'clock so that I wouldn't think and I would not commit suicide.
Right.
So I tried to keep busy.
Did you have any type of meaningful relationships between those years?
I'd gotten married at age 25, and I was 24, and I felt that that was the love of my life. I felt that I was rescued. I felt that everything was beautiful, but it didn't last because my husband wanted a child, and I could not give him what he wanted. I believe it was because of the early age of having that sexual situation with this man of God that it may have did some damage to my body, and it didn't work out. My marriage did not work out. And another thing, I never shared that with my husband. I kept it a secret because I was still an actress. My husband cared for this man that was so high respected in the community, and I was still protecting this man, I think, because I did not want my husband to know that this man who's preaching and teaching God's word did this to me. I'm thinking it's just me, but it was many other people that I learned later.
There was a time, we know it because I've met you. I have seen the joy that permeates from your life and excitement for life now. How did you get that? What did Christ do for you?
Well, the Christ that I learned about, I had doubt about because who was teaching me in the things that was happening to me. I was a little doubtful, but there was a little bit of glimpse of still there. So I made up in my mind to move away to another church to find that real Jesus that people are actually talking about. And I researched it, and I got me some healing through a Christian council at the Healing Center on Tullahoma. Bishop Young, William Bishop Young, he and his wife, beautiful people, they brought me through this thing. And a lady by the name of Lisa Gibson, she was also one of the wonderful mentors that I had. And then she'd sit with me for hours, and she taught me different things. And Bishop taught me exactly how to live and not die, and that there's a brighter world out here, Tammy. The Bible teaching tells that weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. He taught me that the Bible said these scriptures about God has a plan for your life, and it's a plan of good and not of evil, and that I have to get these tools that God has given the world so that I can be free. Wow. When I learned that, I got on fire for the Lord.
Andrews, that's so important that when people have such traumatic and horrific upbringing,
yes.
In case of Tammie's abuse,
yes.
But it could be other things that could happen to someone. Sometimes we think the best thing to do is just put it in the past and forget about it.
Right.
But we've got to deal with that so that we can move on. Why is that so important?
We have to. We tell our daughters that, to me, silence is acceptance. If you don't say anything about it, Tammie has something right now, and you can go to on Facebook, is Speak Out, Be Free. And we don't understand that when we keep things in. Tammie was hospitalized for 21 days and near death. And her sister, the nurse, came to her aid and was telling her, Tammie, if you don't speak out, you're going to die. I think that's when she got the revelation. We can't keep that stuff. It's not designed. Secrets were not designed, first of all, from the beginning. We can't keep that stuff inside because it kills us.
Yes, it does.
And so just as important it is to speak out, and I think that's why God wants us to speak out, Jesus, about this gospel. Letting it go, letting it come out releases you. It gives you strength. It gives you that boldness. And on top of that, other people can receive it and they heal from it. We tell people all the time, never keep a secret, regardless how hard it is. Secrets are not designed to be fruitful. They can't be fruitful.
You've written this book, Pray, P-R-E-Y, Pray for the Predator in the Pulpit.
Yes.
It's your story,
Yes.
Tammie Walker Smith. It's available right now. Where can our friends find this book?
Actually, you can get the book online at any bookstore, or you can get it at Tate Publishing.
I can't imagine. It must have been difficult for you. Andrews mentioned in the beginning you had that mental block. Of course, God used Andrews to help you to be able to release those thoughts and
Yes.
help you to put them down in print. And I think it's going to be a great resource. I know it will be
Yes.
for many who might be in that same battle, needing to find deliverance.
Yes.
And-
That's the most important thing, deliverance. Deliverance and forgiveness. If we can get these tools so that people can see the glory of God, then therefore you can lose. You cannot lose. We need the forgiveness. We need to understand that we are vessels so that we can go forth to help another individual to be set free with your story and let the glory of God shine.
Yes.
That's the most important thing.
Yes.
Tammie Andrews, God bless you.
Bless you.
Thank
you
you.
Byron.
so much for coming and sharing your heart, being so transparent with us today. And I just trust, friend, that if you're in a place where Tammie has been, that you will call out for help.
Yes.
Yes.
Find a place that can be a solace, a refuge, that you can find the deliverance like Tammie
Yes,
did.
God.
If somebody wanted to talk to you personally or find out more about your ministry, can they do that?
They can actually contact me on my website, my husband and I, at crusadersforchrist.com. That's crusaders, the number 4.com.
Christ.com.
Okay. Do we have it straight?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to say it, sweetheart?
Go ahead and say it one more
Or
time.
crusadersforchrist.com.
All right.
Yes.
Friends, that's all the time we have on today's Mid-South Viewpoint. I do appreciate you stopping by. I'm Byron Tyler. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for listening to Mid-South Viewpoint. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can email us. Our address is wcrv@botradionetwork.com. This has been Mid-South Viewpoint, another Christian news and information feature from Bot Radio Network 640 AM.